right, everyone. Welcome back.
Yeah. Back in the business. Back in the basement.
Right,
we are back.
right.
Episode 14 coming live and direct.
Hold on, let that beat play. I was feeling that.
I wanted to bring the energy today.
Nice. Welcome, everybody, to the basement on Wrath and Grace. Again, if you're out there, please share. This is our group page, facebook.com/group/the basement.
Yeah.
But definitely share the page here on facebook.com/Wrath and Grace. Yeah.
I'm sharing it right now to our church page,
Right.
which is Christ Alone. Did you want to get into that a little bit? Talking about Christ Alone. We never give that intro to Christ Alone.
Yeah, sure. We have a church here in the city called Christ Alone Fellowship, and I'll put the logo up here in the middle just for y'all to check out. But yeah, we planted a church back in March, and we've been there for almost 3 months now, and it's been a blessing, man. It's been really an encouragement. You know, just to plant a church there in our city where we grew up. And you grew up in Harrisburg, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I've been in Lancaster so long, I'm starting to become a native.
Right. So yeah, we're here and definitely encouraged by what God is doing.
Amen.
Want to let people know who our guest is?
Yeah. This is my man Gordon Reason, aka G Reason.
All right.
What up, peoples? Thank you, fellas, for having me.
This is my man
Mama,
from way
I made
back.
it to the basement.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny, man. Me and you been doing podcasting for a couple years.
Yeah.
So to have you on this platform is just crazy.
It's an upgrade.
Yeah, we do
Lord
something.
is good.
We do something way on a lower scale,
Right.
which is just selfie podcast. We just turn our phones on selfie mode and just go live
Just go live.
at the crib. Like none of the official setup.
Nah.
Mad times that we get disconnected on our lives and
Right.
we get all types of responses in our comment section, and yeah, you never know what to expect when we go
Feedback. One time we had an earthquake.
live. Yo, I remember that, yo.
Yes, we did.
Yo, we did.
Wow, that's
A
crazy.
couple summers ago.
Yeah,
We
yo.
had pizza delivery guys interrupt. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. We roughed it out. So this is an upgrade.
Yo, somebody said, Cam said he looked like he will kill a Freestyle Friday.
Wow.
Nice.
Dag,
That's
man.
a compliment.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's the
Nice,
basement.
nice.
Now, if you watched us on our own podcast, like Wayne was saying, you wouldn't say that.
Yo, Scott Crawford. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, everybody? Yeah.
Those of you
Right.
watching, I'm going to say what I always say. Go ahead and hit the like button. Stay in the comment section with us. Keep on commenting. We love to hear from you. We don't like to just come on the platform and give y'all information. We like a discussion. We like people to interact with us and us to interact with them. And yeah, so go ahead and like it, comment, and share the video. Share it on your timeline. Invite somebody to watch it.
Yeah.
Everybody. So yeah, those of you that are watching, what's up? We have so much that we're gonna be talking about tonight. Today is episode 14, though. We're in the basement. Episode 14.
14.
And it's called Love by Example.
Congrats,
Yeah.
fellas. 14 in, man.
Yeah, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
14 already.
I know. It's wild.
It is wild. I'm
I'm gonna share it to the basement. So go ahead. Did you give an intro for yourself?
Nah.
Okay. You're so modest.
You know, I have a guest, you know. So I actually want Gordon to just let people know who you are, you know what I'm saying, where you're from, and just let people know what's up.
Well, I am Gordon Reason. This is the right camera to look into, right? Yeah. All right. I'm more of a native to Lancaster. I was born in Chester, PA. So I do have a chunk of childhood in Chester, but Lancaster's been where I was raised and groomed. My salvation was in Lancaster when Christ saved me. I do Christian hip hop. I do low key podcasting. I'm just a brother in the faith, and opportunities like this are exciting to chop up the word of God, exciting to challenge and encourage, and to be challenged and to be encouraged. So
All right.
ask me questions about myself along the way.
Yeah.
I know we got a nice topic to talk about today, and that's why they paid me to be here. So.
He was expensive, y'all. You know.
Yeah, we paid him in mad compliments.
You paid me in Swedish fish and cookies.
Right.
Mad Bible scriptures.
Yep.
That's good.
I said my treasures were stored up in heaven or something like that.
Word. So
right.
let's get into this. You guys, stay tuned. We have a great episode today. So today's episode is actually a flip of the ladies episode that we had a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the ladies episode that we had for ladies night was called Submit by Example. And so we were dealing with the first part of that, wives, husbands in Ephesians 5, where wives submit to your husbands. And we dealt with the first part of that. And just talking about how big of a role submission plays in our households, in our churches, and in our communities. Eventually, it reaches across the world. Whether there is submission or a lack of submission, it plays a big role in everyday life. And so I wanted to flip that for us guys that are here tonight. All three of us are married. And I'm going to tell you this right now. We don't have any type of perfect marriage. Like, if you're looking for perfect, step by step, this is how you do it, universal marriage, that ain't us.
You're on the wrong podcast.
Yeah, that ain't us.
Maybe focus on the family or something like that. But it ain't.
I might have to go to Luke Walker and them on the Wrath and Grace.
Right.
No, but that ain't us, man. So we're going to give you our personal examples, like our personal things that we've witnessed and what the scripture tells us. Yeah. That's the best that we can give you. And it's sufficient.
Yeah.
It's sufficient.
Right.
So tonight's episode is called Love by Example. A couple episodes we talked to the women about submitting by example. So tonight, husbands, men, we're going to learn how to love by example. We're going to talk about what that means.
Yeah, man. Dope. Cool.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's good to see some of y'all eat malu, guana noriega. Did I get it this time?
Yeah, you did.
I got it.
Wait,
hey.
ask him if you got it. Cause
No, that's a lady.
Yeah.
Ask her.
Right.
Yo, Ray.
Cameron Walker on there.
Yeah.
Ray's on there.
Yeah.
What's up, Ray?
Yeah. So
What up, Ray?
we do have some stuff for you guys, but let me give you an intro to what we're going to be talking about, because I'm sure some of you, even though I've given a 10-minute intro, still going to wonder what the heck are they talking about tonight.
Right. I'm wondering that.
So let me tell you like this, okay? From the very beginning, God intended marriage to be a depiction of the gospel.
Yeah.
All right.
From the very beginning, God gave marriage as a way to illustrate what was to come.
Right.
What was already planned out from the beginning, which is Jesus coming and dying for us. He already planned that out, already had done that, established that, and said, I'm going to give man and woman to each other so that they can understand in a greater light what love really looks like.
Yeah.
So he gave us marriage. And through the years, we found ways to abuse our positions in marriage. Right. We found ways to distort marriage. We found ways to totally desecrate it.
Redefine it even.
Redefine it.
Yeah.
And I thought this was a good quote. This is from Mary Cassian. She said, God created manhood, womanhood, marriage, and sex because he wanted us to have symbols, images, and language powerful enough to convey the idea of who he is and what a relationship with him is all about.
Wow.
Without them, we'd have a tough time understanding concepts such as desire, love, commitment, fidelity, loyalty, unity, intimacy, oneness, covenant, fatherhood, and even family. So he gave us marriage to help us understand God and the gospel.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah.
You can quote her on that. That was really good, though. And I thought that was worth sharing. I hope you guys are understanding where we're coming from this episode. Is there anything you wanted to add to that intro part of what we're going to be discussing?
What are your thoughts, man?
I'd wear that on a t-shirt. That's that quote. That's a great introduction.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
So as we go forward, I do have a question for the audience. All right. My question for the audience, as I always say, is I'm going to put it in the comment section, but as I'm putting it there, Los, And Gordon, feel free to answer this one at a time.
Okay.
What's your view on love in the context of marriage, and how does it differ from your previous understanding of it?
Right.
We'll be right back with a message from our sponsors.
Right. Yeah. View on love and marriage. Well, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but I think love sometimes, of course, the perversion of love is sometimes when people think of emotion,
Right.
and they think of things that need to happen for love to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't think love is dependent or contingent on things that we think are important.
Okay.
Because prior to that, love was really, prior to Christ, love was almost dependent on a certain vibe or experience.
Right.
And that's what the world does.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I remember L's song, I Need Love, and he talked about, you know what I'm saying?
Love.
Yeah, you remember that joint?
Yeah, I remember that.
I need love.
And
Yeah.
the thing about when that joint came out, like, it was just dope to see an MC actually soften it up, you know what I'm saying, and talk about love the way he did.
Right.
But, it's secular, it's worldly. It has that mentality to it where love is contingent on experience or an
Right.
individual. But Christian love is not dependent on those things.
Absolutely.
And so it's set apart. So that's how I think it's different. There's an eternal foundation to
Right.
Christian love.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
For me, love has it's changed. My perspective of love has changed, definitely because of the scriptures.
Right.
Christ being our example is one way of saying that. But then looking at, especially the early stages of our marriage,
Right.
it really wasn't love. It was self-interest, self-serving. It was conditional.
Right.
Comparing that to Christ's example of love, that's how I started getting a bigger, broader, more refined definition of love. So if I had to sum it up for myself, it's multifaceted, but if I had to sum it up, it would be love seeks the highest good of someone else. Even if that means we don't need to be in a relationship, because that's not the highest good for you.
Right.
That's not the best thing for you right now. So I start there, seeking the highest good. So when me and my wife look backwards, we're like, that wasn't the best. That wasn't an example of love. It wasn't sacrificial. It wasn't none of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was,
Wow. That's good. So you guys go ahead. Answer that in the comments section. What's your view on love and marriage? And how does it differ from your previous understanding of it?
Yeah.
So let's look into this a little bit further as the comments are coming in and all that. Let's talk about Christ the husband and how Christ sets the example for us as men of God and husbands on how to deal with all the other struggles that we deal with in marriage.
Yeah.
So I think Losh, you wanted to start by defining love and submission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Simply put, submission is to put before, in a nutshell. And, there's a couple passages on it. Romans 8:7, for instance, for the mind that is set on the flesh is hostile to God, for it does not submit, put before,
right.
to God's law. Indeed, it cannot. Romans 10:3, for being ignorant of the righteousness of God and seeking to establish their own, they did not submit to God's righteousness. And then going to Ephesians 5, where we're pretty much getting this, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. So there's a putting before that needs to take place, and mind you, it's in light of what Christ has done.
Right.
So you have to define submission to what Christ has done, and he put the will of the Father before his own. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what submission is.
Right.
Love is to have a strong love for a person and their good as understood by God's moral character.
Gotcha.
Especially characterized by a willing forfeiture of rights or privileges in another person's behalf. It's going to what you're saying.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And of course, Ephesians 2:4. But I wanted to point out Ephesians 5:1-2 because I think this sets up the tone for the passage and really the standard. Ephesians 5:1 says, therefore be imitators of God.
That's right.
Right? And so to imitate God in our submission and our love, well, we have to look at the gospel and what Christ has done. Really the triune God, the Trinitarian example of submission and love, how they love each other,
Right.
how the Son submitted to the Father, you know what I'm saying, and how the Holy Spirit submissive to the Son. So you see love and submission in the triune God. And I think the big thing is that, love, like I said earlier, is not contingent on, at least Christian love isn't contingent on the temporal, but love is decisional. It's not dependent on emotion, on temporal things. It's actually a decision you can make.
Right.
To put the good of someone else before your own, like you said.
Right.
So I would say that, that's what it is.
That's good. That's good. That's
Right.
definitely good right there.
That's facts.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Is there anything you want to say on that?
I agree.
Okay.
It's a choice.
All right.
It's a decision. It's a choice.
I mean, it's nice when you're feeling it.
right.
You know what I'm saying? And I would say if you're not feeling it often, something's wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying emotion isn't important,
No.
but there are those seasons where you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where you have to remember the gospel and remember the standard of truth. Right?
That's right.
So, yeah.
So now that we've talked about that, the definitions and really clarifying what we mean by submission and love,
Right.
Los, did you want to talk a little bit on, and I loved how you talked about it on Sunday, John the Baptist viewing Jesus as the husband.
Yeah.
Because I think that gives us a good background too on
Right.
what to look forward to in our own marriages.
Yeah, along with Ephesians 5, John the Baptist recognized Christ and his incarnation as the bridegroom. In John 3:27-30, he says, John answered, a person cannot receive even one thing unless it is given him from heaven. You yourselves bear witness that I said, I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him. The one who has the bride is the bridegroom. The friend of the bridegroom who stands and hears him rejoices greatly at the bridegroom's voice. Therefore, this joy of mine is now complete. He must increase, but I must decrease. So even John, like from the gate, knew that Christ came for his bride.
Right.
And then you go back where God sent his son, and he gave his son, but he, we can say he sent the bridegroom to get his bride, which is the church. You know what I'm saying? So he's the example for the husband.
Yeah.
Exactly what Gordon said. Christ is the example on how to love our wives.
Yeah.
We need to look to Christ.
Right.
And again, all these books that are being written on the temporal, man, it's sad to see people just fall into just temporal fixes,
Right.
and not really fixate on the eternal things that actually deals with the temporal issues that we find in marriage. Because we think that sometimes a Christian can make the mistake of, I need to fix this thing. Well, I think the example helps us to deal with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to have lifelong issues with our wives.
Absolutely. Say that again, bro.
Right.
Say that again.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think laying down our lives for our wives plays a huge factor in all of this.
Right.
Obviously, the literal laying down of our lives, but I think it's also in everyday life.
Right.
Yeah.
Laying down our desires, our personal desires, our personal wants, our personal preferences
Yeah.
for the sake of our wife.
Yeah.
That's a loving thing to do, because most of the times men and women are totally opposite on the things that they want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're laying down what we want for our wife, most likely we're laying down something that we want for something that we probably don't want.
We're both, biologically and just nature, we're wired in a different way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to say, yeah, of course I'll take a bullet for my wife. I'll lay my life down physically, but I won't die to saying something that hurts her feelings when we get in an argument.
Yeah.
Like it's, we can take that big route out.
Right. It might be easier taking a bullet than not taking a stand on certain
or shooting
things.
Bullets verbally.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm guilty of that.
Right.
Christ as our example, he didn't just die for the church. He died to save them. Like there was a purpose for it.
Yeah.
To rescue us.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a purpose for it. Yeah, I'll die for my wife, or or because of my wife. That's not the tone I got from reading that. What can I die to that gives her life?
Yeah.
Now, some of my attitudes, like you said, some of my preferences, how I was raised, because we did it like this. How I view women, because for most of us, you weren't the only one I was with, so I'm bringing some of that into the picture.
You bring a good perspective into this. How did
Right.
you used to view women?
Well, I was, I guess, groomed in Christianity. Some good, some not so good. Some healthy, some not so healthy.
Okay.
So for us, we got married when we were young. So for me, it was my wife. She didn't come to faith yet. She didn't care what I was.
She was just ride or die.
Right, her perspective of love was somebody's actually being nice to me, holding the door open,
Right.
that type of thing.
Right.
I knew a little bit better, but so for me, my perspective was marriage was the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do.
Because you were raised in a religious background, right?
Yeah. So that was marriage is like that's the pinnacle of your relationship. If you're dating someone, it's to get married.
Yeah.
Because that puts a smile on God's face, and but conversations about marriage, the role of the husband and wife, that never happened. It almost didn't have to happen. You got married, you're cool, and then everybody kind of backed off because you're married now.
Yeah.
And no one walking with you while you're in your marriage. Like, no, that's just the beginning. You still need that same community,
if not more, right?
Way more, right? Way more. So,
I think we talked about that before, where you were like, why are so many people there when you get married?
And
where are those same people
when you are married? It's like, no, that's their business now. But no, it took years to realize. It took conviction of the Spirit. It took understanding scriptures that our marriage is just a small little pixel in a big picture that's pointing to Christ and His relationship with the church.
Yeah,
that gives your marriage purpose when you bowled for 10,000 times and you seen movies. It gives it purpose. It's bigger than us.
And like I was saying earlier, God has always intended marriage to reflect gospel realities.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's take a break real quick. Let's get to the comment section.
Yeah.
There are people that are commenting to the question that I had up earlier. Some people even starting off by saying no marriage is perfect. Charlie says marriage is a typology of Christ, the bridegroom, and His church, bride. The two become one Christ, the head, and His church.
Right.
Mystical body. Amen. Yeah.
Right.
It absolutely corresponds to that right there. Where Christ and His church correlate to Christ being the head and the church being the body.
Right.
John says obedience is love. John 14:21.
Right.
Tiff says she's answering the question of like, what's your view on love? She says love is not a feeling, it's an action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Yep. So those of you that are watching, go ahead and answer that question. Continue to answer that question. Continue to stay in the comment section. Give us your opinions. Give us your views. Give us your thoughts, and ask us some questions. But my question for the audience and those of you that are watching is, what's your view on love and marriage? How does it differ from your previous understanding of it? Go ahead and answer that, and like, comment, share the video. We're going to continue in this conversation. I want to start off by saying leadership in marriage a lot of times is treated like it's a jump ball. Those of us that are basketball fans probably know what I mean by that, where it's almost like whoever can jump the highest gets to be the leader here.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that jump ball. And a lot of times we can't, we just got to know this much. We can't treat leadership in marriage like it is a jump ball. Like it's not whoever is stronger gets to lead or whoever is smarter. No, it's a position, as the leadership position is given to the husband. And the submission role is given to the wife. That's how God set it up.
Right.
And there's no other way around it. Men, we have to be leaders whether we like it or not. And most of us don't like to be leaders.
Right.
What do you think causes the jump ball type of?
I think because we live in such a culture that preaches equality and preaches that message where the woman's like, anything you can do, I can do better, or I can do it on anything you can do, I can do on the same level. Right. I can do it just as good as you. And so in marriage, they're like, it translates to that right there, where the woman is like, well, I can lead. I can water my husband with the word of God. I can cover. I can be his covering. I can actually, I'm more holier and I obey God's word more than my husband, so I should be the leader of our household. Why should he get to lead? And I came to Christ first. I'm the reason, like, God is using me to pull my husband to him.
Yeah, I think in that there's confusion, but I think the deeper issue is that there's not this remembrance of redemption, like what God has done in his sending his son and seeing the humiliation of his son.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, somehow Jesus is not being seen. They're not understanding what their role is in light of what Christ has done.
Right.
There's a disconnect.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just crazy how that's always at that root level, you know?
Yep. That's what
you said it on Sunday. We cannot substitute the truth of who Jesus is with who we are in Christ.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote that down because when you were preaching on Sunday, do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring it back up in other words and like in another way of saying it. We can't substitute the truth of who Jesus is with who we are in Christ.
Right.
That's
we just
good.
can't.
That's a good word.
It's true.
I like the word disconnect too, and I think it stems from whatever you did and however you were taught outside of the marriage. You bring that into it.
Yeah.
If I, pursued someone or courted someone and I bought them things and we had a good old time, I'm not going to ruin that now by being your leader.
Yeah.
Keep things the way they are. Or if she seems to be more spiritually mature, that seems to be who gets dibs on. Right.
Or if she has
goes
the
to
prettier
church
face,
more.
put her at the forefront. She's the prettier one. People will probably like to hear truth from her more than me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that happens.
It does happen. It actually happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it happens, I would even say, in a certain age bracket.
Right.
Like you said, it happens early on. It happens early on.
Yeah.
Here's a quote. I forgot who said it. But it says, sin didn't create headship and submission. It ruined them and distorted them and made them ugly and destructive. Some equate the position of the husband and the position of the wife to submit a symptom of the fall or like a punishment.
Right.
These things were instituted before that.
Right.
Sin just distorted it. So there's nothing wrong with it. These aren't bad things.
Right.
There's people who've been together for years and it's like, why not get married? I ain't trying to. No, it's going to change.
Right.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Cam says, yes, sir. Got to lead that home. Men that never had a father growing up will just pass it on if there's no one to lead them and show them how to in Christ. And a lot of times that's the case, guys, especially us. I always bring up, like, these type of topics aren't talked about in church too often, where you have those no father in the household upbringings.
Yeah.
That doesn't get talked about enough, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Because those things really play out in everyday life.
Right.
When your father is not in the picture, it plays out into everything that you do when you're working.
Yeah.
Or when you're not working. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why a person might not want to work is because of that. Or when you're trying to lead your home and all of these things.
I think,
our churches play out that way.
and I think I think the one way it does show itself a lot is just interacting with other people.
Yeah.
Not just in your marriage, but in your church and fellowship and
other people interacting with other people, including your marriage.
Right.
Sure.
You tend to see people that are in leadership or like your supervisor or boss, whoever, like your friends. It affects everything.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, and the hard part about it is you don't see your own dysfunction in the process. You think that's just the way I am.
Right.
You don't even think that that's the way you are.
Right.
That's just what you do.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's hard to point that out sometimes too.
Yeah.
'Cause you're telling someone, hey, I'm seeing something, but they're seeing you as, them seeing you is a problem because they don't even see the very dysfunction you're pointing out sometimes.
Yeah. And it's attached to them. Like,
Right.
you're trying to, in some way, shape, or form, tell me not to be myself. Like, this is how I've done this for years. And not knowing that it's been off
Right.
for a long time. And that does translate.
Yeah.
We've all probably have experienced it. God's order, the male being the head of the house, is abused at times.
Yeah.
Right.
because some people, men, we're talking about us, you give them a little bit of authority and they run rampant with it.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, it's like that one
Yeah,
person
we-
at the job that gets the leadership or the boss
manager.
position.
And it's over.
Yo, they come in drawn.
or the coworker that
Right.
acts like a manager, because that's what it is.
my
We
God.
we
Right.
manage what God's given us.
Yeah.
Our leadership, this is in one of my notes, our headship is not a right to command and control. It's actually a responsibility to love like Christ.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility. We get first dibs on initiating and loving and serving.
Yeah. We're gonna talk
Yeah.
about that in
Oh,
just
I
one
want to
minute.
jump into that.
Yeah,
so
no,
bad.
because we're gonna. That's in the
I'm-
next section right here.
Listen,
But
hold on, I gotta say this though. 'cause
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, go ahead,
that's
go
a
ahead,
dope
go ahead,
thought, man.
go
That's
ahead.
such a good thought. I hope I didn't lose it. Oh, that if anyone should have been bossy or demanding, it should have been Christ.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
But that's not what he came to do.
No.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's our standard. You know. Anyway, I'll
Yeah,
I'll
No,
keep
go
it
ahead,
at
go
that.
ahead.
We'll get that- we'll
keep
get
that
back to
going.
that.
Keep that going because we
sparked
can
it
get into
off
this. We can
because
get into
listen,
this.
man, that's super convicting right now.
Yeah.
Let's
You know,
talk about that
super
while we're on this
convicting.
topic. What would you say is the difference, or I guess you could say the deciding factor, or like what's the wisdom behind controlling your wife and loving her? Like, because a lot of people equate you being a leader in your home as being controlling. It's controlling the wife and all that. Like, how do we balance that? Controlling your wife, loving your wife. Like, how do we find that balance?
For myself, my wife is usually the gauge because when you love something, the response is different than when you control something.
Okay.
And every relationship is different, depending on who you're in a relationship with.
That's
They
a really
might
good
be-
point. Pause that real quick. That's
Okay.
a really good point. Every relationship is different.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Again, this isn't a universal one size fits all
No.
type of podcast today.
That's
Yeah.
more reasons why we need Christ. Who
Yeah.
knows my wife better than I do
Yeah.
Right.
than Christ? But for some interpret control in a different way. Or I have to do what he says because that's me showing that I love him. But and I'm gonna go back to my notes so I don't rabbit trail. He's 6 now, but my 5-year-old, when he was 5, he wanted to switch roles with me. And I gave him one
I
shot.
remember you told me that.
Yeah. He's like, he wanted to be in. It stemmed from he didn't want to go to bed to get up for school. So he figured adults stay up longer. I want to be an adult. I'm like, all right, tomorrow we'll switch roles. Do what dad does. Got up. He didn't want to make breakfast. He didn't want to clean. Showed him where the bills were. He didn't want none of my responsibilities. He just wanted my authority.
Right.
And I said, this is what
Right.
dad does. And sometimes it's like that.
That's good.
We're-
Yeah.
Our authority, our headship makes us responsible now for loving, for forgiving, for imitating Christ. Control is you do whatever I say, and I'm going to make life fit how I want life to go. And your wife is the gauge of that.
Yeah.
If I'm, we had it real bad early on because we were both selfish, but I had to juggle this position of me being selfish and being a Christian. Now I'm in control. A selfish person is now in control of the marriage.
Yeah.
Arguments, tears, that ain't the byproduct
Right.
of love. That's the byproduct of me trying to control the temperature of the house and make life go the way I want it to go because I'm not submitting
Yeah.
to Christ.
We have the potential as Christian men, and I say potential. I'm not saying that we do this, but there's potential there to abuse our leadership because of us having the scriptures to prove that we're supposed to be in charge. Like in the world, you can just be like, I'm a man, and you listen to what I'm saying,
Right.
and there's really no authority other than maybe if she's scared to piss you off, like
Right.
to take you there.
Yeah.
Then maybe she'll listen to you and like, all right, fine, yeah, I'll submit out of fear
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I don't want to be beat or I don't want you to cheat on me. But
And that's control.
that's control,
That's
right?
Control. You're
Yeah.
dictating
But-
the results.
Right,
Yeah. Right.
but
Yeah.
but in the body, like when you come to Christ, we have that authority or we have that scripture to prove and back up. Like, yo, no, I really do have headship right here, and I've seen it happen so much in the church, and even in my own marriage. Hold up, even in my
I
own
was going to
marriage,
say, but I didn't want to say. No.
All right.
even in my own marriage, I've made that mistake
Right.
where I've taken advantage of the fact that God has given me headship and final authority over the things in my household. And I've taken, I'm going to say this like this. I've taken my position and authority lightly.
Yeah.
Right.
By being too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking my position too lightly by being too heavy-handed.
Right.
I've done that in my own life, and I've seen it done. And maybe I've done some of that because I've seen it done so often that I thought I was supposed to do it.
Well, I think it comes from you not being aware of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so, you know, that's what we saw. And then when we're in it and doing it, we're not seeing the damage being done.
No.
You know,
Right.
I think sometimes it's sad because that's the only way someone knows how to do what they think they should do.
For sure.
You know, and so yeah, it's you know, that I find that in times in my marriage dealing with a Latina, you know, who's very strong and very passionate, that when I dip into trying to control, I right away I'm not gospel oriented. I'm not gospel focused.
Right.
I just want things to go my way right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the fear is if I go gospel, then I'll feel like I'm not in control.
Yeah, because
Right.
you know what Christ says.
Right.
You know what Christ says about
So
how
now
we handle
I
our
gotta
wives.
trust him for my wife, and you know what? I don't have that much faith right now because she's tripping.
Isn't that funny how we pick
You know
and choose
what I'm saying?
sometimes? Like, yo, I don't want to do it the Christ-like way because if I do it the Christ-like way,
I'm gonna lose out.
that's gonna make me that's gonna it's gonna make me soften my position. And I don't want to compromise that right now.
Right.
But you know
I have
what?
the advantage right now.
The definition earlier, to have a strong love for a person and their good as understood by God's moral character, especially characterized by a willing forfeiture of rights or privileges in another person's behalf.
Yeah.
That's love.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's hard.
Yep.
Let's pause real quick. Imalo said, I married an unbeliever at a young age. We've been together for 35 years and celebrating 33 years of marriage. Although he was an unbeliever, our relationship was always good. I prayed 16 long years and never threw a guilt trip on him of any sorts. It was tough, but God's agape love is what made the difference. I just want to encourage any man out there that is praying for his wife, love her like God would. I don't know why I had to wait that long, but God gave me strength and grace every day. As long as I drew from him, no other love will conquer. And that's part of the sanctification process.
Yeah.
That's you being sanctified as the praying spouse and as the long-suffering spouse, and also your spouse being sanctified and being drawn to Christ.
It's
God,
very, very biblical.
God will bring that whole dynamic together for our good and for his glory.
Amen. Well said.
Cam says mentors. Those are so important. We need you got a good mentor. Brother Chuck.
Yeah, shout out to Chuck Hall.
He cuz Gordon needed that. Gordon needed that early in his marriage.
Why?
What Chuck brought to the table.
Yeah.
Like why? Why was that important?
I didn't even. Well, I'll give us a summary because we'll be here all night if I get the babbling. So we visited a church that my brother and his wife were going to. Is visiting, and after the service, an older white guy, because the context of it is beautiful, came up to me and he said, "Hey, this might sound weird, but I really feel pressed in my spirit to invest time with you." I didn't know him at the time. And I'm like, that was weird. He didn't know prior to that, maybe 2 days prior to that, I was in my son's room bawling because I was missing my father. So if you know any of my backstory, I don't have my real father or my stepfather, the one that actually raised me. They're both deceased. And I didn't cry at the funerals, not because I was a tough guy, but it takes me a while to process emotionally. Mentally, I understood he's dead, he's gone.
But you were still grieving.
And I grieve in spots.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 years here and maybe And one day hit me real hard. I was just in my son's room laying down because there's tools missing from my life toolbox. And I'm looking at my sons as my wife keeps having kids. Without my permission. No. And I'm like, man, because I really felt the weight of, you know, they say you can only lead someone as far as you've been led.
Right.
And sometimes I felt the weight of that. Like, I don't know what my dad would be doing right now. My son's graduating from elementary school. My dad never been to any of what do I do?
Yeah.
I was feeling the weight of that. So me crying like, God, I know you're my father, you know, and I know you comfort the fatherless. Then all of a sudden, 2 days later, this man's like, hey, can we have coffee? Just to talk and just to talk.
Nice.
I'm like, So I said recently at an event that was on before Father's Day, to praise God for fathers and father figures. I think that's how God fills that void with mentors and father figures. This man came at a due season for me. For me, I was going to cry my tears, soak it back up, and keep it moving. God's like, nah, let me interrupt that unhealthy pattern of yours.
Nice.
And we went to Starbucks. And it's been a 10+ year relationship since then.
Nice.
And his wife, you know, older saints, salt and pepper saints that walked a couple more miles than us and prayed a couple more prayers that were a model of marriage and longevity and Christ to us. Very necessary. And God provided the means for that, because in my pride, I wouldn't have asked for it. In my tears, but in my pride, I'm not asking for no male figure. I was like, nah, you need me to be tangible to you, and I'm going to send someone your way. And so that's the story of Chuck.
Nice.
Yeah, so those mentors are key
Right.
in us learning, especially the fatherless, or even the ones that grew up with bad father figures.
Right.
Missing father figures, dead father figures at this point.
Yeah.
They're key. And God will send, because he knows what we need.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny how, it's not funny, but it's just crazy how he knew you needed that at that time.
That was weird.
And-
That was super weird to me.
And I always say, like, that connection that was made between you, Brother Chuck, and your wife and his wife, Marilyn, right? The fellowship and the mentorship and just everything that has happened and been fruitful because of that relationship. I've eaten the crumbs that fall from the table of y'all fellowship. And I've learned so much, thank God, because of you being in my life as a big brother along the way. Like, I mean, you know, from a very young age, and when I came along, when you met me, I was like 20. I had a really bad view on women, and how a man should be in control, be in leadership.
Wayne was a caveman with it.
You
don't get my dinner when I walk in the
yo.
door. And I just Look at God, as they would say.
Yeah.
Right.
That was I went from a caveman to the cage stage. And then Lord willing, get to that sage stage. But really, thank God that he's shown me this stuff, and he showed me a lot of it before I got married, thank God, because for real, I'd have been in a really bad position had I not been shown those things before.
I like what Paul says, you have many teachers but you don't have many fathers, you know. And so we need fathers in the church, you know. And there's a distinction there between the teacher and the father, you know. And I think that's important. Like, people have thought in terms of a classroom type of discipleship or appointments, being, not that those aren't, you know, I make appointments with people because I have to schedule things, but you should have an open door policy to your life. You know, and be accessible, be vulnerable as a father. You know, because I didn't have that. You know, and I didn't know how to be vulnerable in a productive way in my family.
Open door policies was not a popular thing until maybe 15 years ago. Like the new millennium brought in that open door policy, because for a long time there, you didn't have that open door policy with your parents.
That's true. The old school Puerto Ricans did, though.
Oh, okay.
Back in PR, you know, because you didn't have a choice. Some of us didn't have doors. You know what I'm saying? People just came into the crib and be like, "Yo, you got some coffee? What's going on?" There's actually some health to that, because it breaks up the monotony of structure and having appointments. You need to be accessible, man. Your life needs to be accessible to people. That's how you can father people well. You know, just like, hey, you're my son. You here's a key to my house type thing.
Right.
You know, you can't do that with everybody.
No.
But discipleship, you know, when you're serious about like a relationship, you're talking about, you should have that access to people.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
I think, let me see. Brittany was commenting on what you said earlier when it was like you're arguing with your wife and you don't want to. It's almost like you want to ignore the gospel so that you're not convicted enough to back up and say, wait, I'm wrong, right? Brittany says, the fear is if I go gospel, I'm not in control, right? That's the thought, right? She said, well, if that doesn't effectively describe the human condition and the nature of the flesh, I don't know what does. Amen.
Right. This guy.
Yo.
I don't even know who this guy is.
Wait, what happened?
What's his point?
He said, I agree with McNugget. But I also would say be accessible as a father and husband. Yeah. He says that out of love, yo. If you get to know Cam a little bit more, Cam is. I'm getting to know Cam, and Cam is just funny like that. Like he says it with jokingly, but at the same time he agrees with what you're saying, man.
What church you go to?
He's down south, I believe, in Texas.
Oh, all right. They don't know no better.
That's that Southern hospitality. That's what that is.
No doubt.
Thanks for watching, Cam.
There is 3 things I wanted to talk about before we get to the end part. Right. So let's get through this. What do we do whenever? Well, hold on. Before I get into that part, I'm going to put a question in the comment section. Answer the question first. And then we'll get into these other questions here, okay? Right. So my question for the audience, and I'm going to throw it in the comment section, is have you ever noticed Christian marriages falling in line with the world's teachings, compromising and adopting worldly ways? If so, what damage do you think it's caused? I'm going to put that in the comment section. Right. But have you noticed Christian marriages today falling in line with the world's teachings and the world's ways and compromising and adopting worldly ways, right? What damage do you think that's done? And I could even say in the church, what damage do you think that's done?
I think, I've seen it done with people going to questionable conferences, reading books that have ideas that aren't really touching on the issue. It's almost like they want pragmatic things, but not things that are biblical, things that work,
right?
Rather than things that are eternal and things that deal with like what's underneath it all. You know, because pragmatism just deals with the surface stuff to make it work, but the scriptures really dig into what's broken. You know what I'm saying? Like so I've seen marriages just settle, for artificial just relationship, and as long as he's doing his job and buying me things and doing this, we're good. It's like no, there's something underneath that needs to be done. Yeah, some renovation in the soul. Right. And so I think when they fall in line with worldly teaching, they're just settling for temporal things, settling for temporal fixes, artificial, earthly, or even like the scriptures say, just things that just fall in line with just natural thinking, rather than, having a meta narrative in their marriage. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. Yeah. And I think without the worldly influence, we can mess that up ourselves. Just our own.
We don't need the world to mess up, right?
Our own, because that's the stuff we bring into the marriage, and I think lack of being educated biblically. There is the companionship part of your marriage. We're not just saying it. The bigger picture, the meta narrative. We represent Christ and His relationship to the church. Yeah, that's the big goal. That's our go-to and our foundation. Yeah. And in the process, by God's grace, we can have a companionship with someone in that process, where it's not just a position and it's just a business. I'm the husband, you're the wife, you represent Christ, that's all it is. No, it's life to be lived. There's, laughs to be laughed and tears to be, and I think either we can make it all pragmatic, or we can make it just all biblical to the point where, well, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis?
Right. All theory. And,
Yeah, right. All theory or all pragma. And there's this beautiful woven piece that Christ displayed while he walked the earth of what that looked like.
Yeah.
As he showed love to the Father and love to the disciples while he was alive.
Yeah.
It wasn't just theory, and it wasn't just pragmatism. It was both. He lived it out. It's something we live out. We flesh this thing out. But it starts with, for me, it had to start with being renewed in how I thought marriage should look like. Once I got our eyes off of our marriage and how I could make it so it benefited me, and Christ really became my example, and we learned those lessons quick during hard times. Like that's just during hard times. That's when things started getting better.
Right.
We're getting better at it. We're not perfect, but we're getting better at it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let me ask you this: what do you do when your wife won't submit? Like, how do you love your wife when she won't submit?
You asking me that?
I'm asking both of you guys that. Like, what do you like? How are you supposed to love your wife when she won't submit? Like during those times where she's just like, no, I'm not submitting, and her attitude and her emotions are showing that she is not willing to submit.
Yeah, I like the way you're asking. How are you supposed to do it?
Yeah,
I don't think we've done it right in the midst of them not doing what they're supposed to do. I think what you're supposed to do is, know what's going on in light of what God commanded us as husbands to do. That's the part I have a hard time at times with, is really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what I'm feeling right now, I'm not feeling it right now. She's tripping right now. So what do I do with that?
Right.
How do I display Christ in the midst of that? And that math doesn't happen at that time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
Well, you're supposed to do, of course, we all know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
How do you do that in the midst of that? How do you do the math? How do you Yeah, that's,
Right. And your definition.
That's tough.
Pastor Lewis, in your definition of love, you mentioned it's God's morality. That is the standard.
Right.
And so when women, and we're talking to believers, when wives look at God's morality as their standard, Christ's example as their standard for submission.
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing that, and we're doing our stuff. That that's how it's supposed to mesh. My question to your question, Wayne, to give me clarity is, what are they not submitting to? What is it? Give me a good example of what would be considered them not being willing to submit. What are we saying, doing, suggesting? How are we leading? Because if your wife as a believer is not submitting, I would say, at what point did you realize she's not a submitting woman? Like, you know what I'm saying? That didn't just happen.
That is a good question to the question, because I had a hard time answering the question because of that. Yeah. That's a good point.
Like, if she ain't submitting to this, then there had to be somewhere between the dating and the Facebook messages.
I think it's more along the lines of, like, you guys have been married now, and she's still at that point where it's like she is just against submission itself, and maybe she has a bad view of what submission is. Maybe she just doesn't feel that that's the totally biblical thing to be doing. Maybe she looks at your leadership as like, I don't need to submit to him. Like, he doesn't deserve my submission. Because he's not that good of a leader. Right.
I would. This is just me, because I've we've dealt with individuals in situations like that. I would say, at what point was this a new thing? Because part of it's probably you let things go for so long. Now it's like, now you're asking for something that you didn't care about before. And how far have you been leading your wife?
Right.
Like,
that's definitely a question.
You guys weren't married. Like, there had to be some clues that it was going to go down like this. But that, again, that's when mentorship and biblical education and that is necessary prior to even jumping into marriage. Like, okay, now you got to listen to everything that I say. Well, when we were dating, you let me pick the restaurant.
Right. Now
all of a sudden you pick the book we're going to study. It could be a different world.
Yeah.
For people, it could switch in a different.
That's a tough one.
I would even look at that and remember that Paul Paul tells wives, he's speaking directly to wives when
Right.
he was talking about submission. He said, he tells wives to submit. He doesn't say, husbands, make your wives submit.
Yeah.
So that's a willing act of submission coming from your wife that Paul is saying. He's talking to the wives at that point. He's not telling husbands, your job is to make your wife submit. That's going to come. And if she isn't, you got to ask yourself, why isn't she submitting?
Right.
Some of that may be your fault. And so I think it was John Piper that said this. He said, do all that you can to make your wife submitting to you a joy for her.
Right. And that speaks volumes, because I was going to ask, what is she submitting to?
Right.
I know submit holds weight, and it could be a cuss word to some people, but
Yeah.
it's a beautiful word in scripture when you're supporting the leadership of your husband.
Mm-hmm.
How often do I submit to Christ if I ask myself that question?
Yeah.
Because I'm submitting to him and my wife's submitting to me. So I can understand, how often do I submit? How easy is it to submit to Christ regularly?
Yeah.
Obeying him regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And then turn around and demand that type of
Yeah.
obedience, per se,
Yeah.
from my wife.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
There has to be some humility. So our approach to them not submitting in whatever area of our life, however it looks, I think we have to apply that same grace. Like, how quick am I to submit to Christ?
Yeah.
How quick am I?
Yeah.
How regular am I in my obedience? And
Yeah, I think submission and love, like submission from the wife and love from the husband, the hard thing is to separate that from each other, and seeing that my love for my wife is a God issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
whether she's submissive or not, that's irrelevant to me loving her. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Because I'm doing it in light of what he's done.
Yeah.
And same goes for her.
wow.
You know what I'm saying? So what we do with couples in counseling sometimes is we kind of separate them a little bit and help them focus on their issue with God,
Right.
not their issue with each other.
That's
Right.
good.
It starts there, and then it kind of like, hopefully it'll go down or reach across to each other. And that's hard to do. And that's why mentors and fathers and mothers in the church are important, to help them walk through those issues. But for me, that's a hard thing to actually see that my lack of loving her is a God issue, and if she's not submitting, I'm to love her regardless. That's
tough, but that's true. That's the truth of it.
we also got to remember this
That's
too,
hard.
guys. Like, just like there should be discipleship in parenthood, right? You being a parent, you should disciple your children. There should still be evangelism in our marriage.
Yeah.
And this is something that we got to remember, is like, we can be the best outreach person, we can be the best street evangelizer and all that, but what are we doing behind closed doors? With our wife? Are we still evangelizing one another in the marriage? Because there's going to be days when each of us are not going to feel like we want to follow Christ and all that. Are we still winning our spouse to Christ?
Yeah.
Are we still winning their heart? You know what I mean? Are we still encouraging them? Because the Bible says to do that with your brothers and sisters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we still remembering that our spouse is our brother or our sister in Christ?
That's a huge undertone, but it's part of the Ephesians passage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Christ's example, presenting the bride to himself,
Yeah.
cleansing her, making her ready. That's an ongoing thing. And how many of us evangelize to someone not in the faith, and we argue and fight with them and give them the silent treatment?
Right.
That's not how we would evangelize.
No, not at all. We can't.
But sometimes with our spouse, it's the
we treat them
opposite.
totally different. Yeah.
And sometimes it's easier to go to a stranger and show the love of Christ and post up at a Starbucks with them and be long suffering and meet weekly.
Yeah. We can't lose our witness to with our spouse. We can't lose our witness. We got to remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt.
This is the part where we have to conclude the audio part. The audio podcast part of this, we try to keep at about 45 minutes to an hour. So the audio part.
Let me put this on the camera. Check it
Almost
out.
forgot.
He got the beard on.
Listen,
Look, he gets it done.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm talking about. That's
My
commitment.
fault.
That's dedication.
I was unofficial for the first 40 minutes. Man. Wow.
Yeah, we should have found a way to tuck it in your headphones so it really looked like
I was
that.
going to tape it.
That would have been funny,
there we
yo.
go.
That's
Now
hilarious, bro.
Just use that clip.
That's what I'm talking about, bro. Hopefully,
Right.
that's the clip that people see when the video's up.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, what in the world?
Right.
Right.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna conclude the audio part at this point, but before we do, is there any concluding thoughts, guys?
Well, I have a quote.
Yeah.
Momentary Marriage, A Parable of Permeates by John Piper. I recommend that book. We did a marriage group on it. He said, marriage is patterned after Christ's covenant relationship to his redeemed people, the church. And therefore, the highest meaning and the most ultimate purpose of marriage is to put the covenant relationship of Christ and his church on display. That is why marriage exists. If you are married, that is why you are married. If you hope to be, that should be your dream.
Right.
You know, so
That's
I
good.
like that.
yeah.
The home.
Right.
And spread into the church.
Right.
And eventually have that domino effect in the communities that we're living in. Almost like an aroma.
Yeah.
It should come from us, though. Love by example. We're supposed to love our brides in such a way. The husbands are supposed to love our brides in such a way that people can see Christ's love for his church. And the flip side of that, wives, you're supposed to submit to your husbands in such a way that the world can see the loveliness of Christ in the obedience of his bride. So my question and my challenge for all of us today is, does your marriage display the gospel to the world?
That's a good question. Yeah.
This is a question that we have to ask ourselves. Does our marriage display the gospel to the world? Or even our views when it comes to marriage and all that, does it display the gospel to the world?
Right.
I'm going to leave you guys with that part on the audio part of this. So we're going to conclude episode 14 of The Basement.
All right.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Another episode here in The Basement where theology meets the thoughts of life. Make sure you tune in next Wednesday right here on the Wrath and Grace page. Every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we go live. Go ahead and follow our basement page that we have. You want to put that overlay up for them?
Yeah, man.
Go ahead and follow us on The Basement. I take all of these long videos that we go live and do, and I make them into short clips. And you guys can watch them and really grow from them, man. I find them to be pretty edifying. So
Yeah, man. Cool.
God bless y'all. Those of you that are watching on the Facebook part, don't leave. Don't leave. We always have a little bit extra for you guys, but this is for the audio part of it. We're cutting it short.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
those of you that are on the Facebook Live, we're here. We're here for all questions.
Any new comments?
We're here for all comments. We're here for all the kind of smoke that you want to send our way.
I did have a question for us.
Cam said he has that book and it's fire.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead, Jay.
My question was two questions. Where do you see Christ at work in your wives?
Wow.
Question, yeah. For me, it's a consistent thing with Lynette because she's a passionate evangelist, you know.
Yeah.
So I see the heart of Christ in her.
Right.
You know, every time there's an event that has to do with reaching people, she lights up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So she's a beast when it comes to events and getting things done.
Right.
You know, and she does it not because she likes doing it, even though she does. It's engined by just a desire to see God glorified in people's lives and seeing people come to Christ. Like, I definitely see the heart of God behind everything she does.
Yeah,
man.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
My wife she's almost in the same vein. She's very meticulous. She loves excellence. And she'll sacrifice time, energy to get something done right. Whether it's putting slides up for the worship songs at church, she'll stay up 2 o'clock in the morning making sure it's right. I'll use a plain background. No, you gotta get the one with the clouds. She takes pride in that, and I see that when the more she matured, she realizes she's working as unto the Lord. Those are things that I try to remind myself of when our flesh gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's not just my wife being annoying. She's a child of God, and if I stop seeing God working in her life, we'll just beat each other up. You know, and that's why I asked that. How do we see? We have to remind ourselves, like you're talking about the evangelism. If we're still evangelizing, still washing our wives, still setting them apart, what fruits do we see in our wives because of that? Because of us submitting to Christ and leading them effectively. What are the end results of that? Or what can we see stemming from that?
So somebody asked, what was the question you just asked? You want to repeat that?
Where do you see Christ at work in your wife?
I'm typing that in the comment section as we speak. Where do you see Christ?
Because early on, we've been married 14 years. Early on, the pragmatic stuff was the easy stuff. Hosting Bible studies, leading her in scripture, and I had a will that I was trying to impose. I wanted her to be the way and think how I think and pray how I pray, you know, and have a passion for what I have a passion for.
Right.
And that wasn't my job. It was to lead and let God do the rest. And now I can appreciate his work in her life, and it's not on my timeline. It's on his timeline.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's good. It's a good question. I think Tiff is watching right now, so I'm on the time clock. Because I'm thinking in so many different ways, but I guess one way to say it, like just plainly, is just I see him in her convictions. To have a wife that I've seen go from being like very infantile in her faith to like seeing it mature and like having convictions about things that I might be lax on, and then when she tells me her convictions, I'm like, you're right. Like what you're feeling, that conviction that you're feeling is so legit.
Right.
Why do I feel numb to that? You know what I mean? So when she says that type of stuff to me, like the things that have been on her heart, when I see God working with her, because you know, like when you're a new Christian and there's certain convictions that you have that just kind of go away as you grow and mature in your faith, right? As you go along, it's like the things that used to bother you don't bother you as much anymore. You've almost become numb to it.
Right.
Have you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so when Tiff is going through that now, something that I had gone through a couple years ago with my convictions about it, you know what I mean? Now she's reminding me, and I'm like, man, like when did I stop caring about that?
Right.
Like when did I start taking all of these gospel truths for granted? Sometimes taking certain truths in the Bible for granted too. Her discovering them and God enlightening them in her life. I see that happening, and then it's like, man, that's really good, Tiff, when she comes to me and tells me stuff like that, or when I notice it in her life.
Right.
Just seeing the maturity and the convictions show in her life, and then reflecting it back on my own life. That's where I see God working.
We've had the privilege, me and my wife, of seeing Wayne grow in his faith, and Tiff. So the brother's not lying. One day Tiff mentioned she was reading Leonard Ravenhill. Tiff reading.
Yo,
and on
Tiff,
top of reading Leonard Ravenhill.
He ain't lying. He ain't lying.
The hunger for the word of God. That's the work of the Spirit of God. That's not Wayne lecturing her. That's and Wayne's life, if this was 8-7 years ago, he wouldn't have submitted himself under your leadership. He wouldn't have. He'd been trying to teach you a thing or two about the faith. But to see him in the position that he's at, it's like, man, this really works. Like, God is dope in that.
This Christ thing actually works.
Yeah. He was always...
Yo, Christ is real.
Right.
Look at the evidence in Wayne's life.
Submitting to authority.
If he can save Wayne, my gosh.
Right. He was the worst of sinners.
Right. When someone asks for the evidence of God, just look at, nah.
Yeah. But I've seen that transformation the questioning authority, not submitting to authority, to now you're in position to lead by example. And yeah, it's a testimony.
That's what's up.
Man.
Good.
Well, that's a good question, and I'm glad that you bring up questions.
Yeah,
because I have some questions.
I bet you do.
This is my part of the podcast where I do speed round questions.
I bet you do have some questions.
Now, how are we going to do this with three of us? How do you want to set
Well,
this
it's
up?
just two of y'all.
Okay.
I ask y'all the questions.
I'm going to put the camera on
I
me
ask
and him.
y'all, you answer.
All right.
I'm going to put the camera on us.
My answer is 3. I don't even know what the question is. It's just 3.
Right. What's up, Tamir? What's up, Sharon? Well, before I get into it, Cam says, I don't know how real we can get, but how long have you guys been married, and what are things you guys still struggle with now in marriage? Let's go through that one real quick before we do the speed round questions.
We do that.
My wife said that we've been married for 14 years. So that's what she said.
Y'all
That's
married
what
for
goes.
14 years.
14, been together for 16. Yep. Just growing pains in life. Like, we started young. So there's the typical stuff. We never planned a future for ourselves. We never sat down like, this is how we're going to use our money, and we're going to have this many kids, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. So we're still growing and maturing in life. We're still being almost, in a sense, what we didn't have. Healthy parent relationships. So still filling some things out. So we say we're a little behind in life in certain things. But by the grace of God, we don't look like a lot of what we've been through. But yeah, and we look, there's a joy now in being together. And we fight for, and we'll fight for other couples that are like, nah, let's just quit because it's not working out the way it's supposed to. Nah, we don't believe in that. It's way deeper than. I'm excited. I told the brothers we keep a WhatsApp, the best podcast in the world, crazy WhatsApps. But I told them I have this goal in my mind. I think it's from God, because it's not something that I would dream up. But just to be an older couple, and maybe now thinking about it, it's because it was modeled for us, that just spends a lot of time in prayer. 60-something, mid-60s.
Someone else earlier brought up old couples in Christ. It's funny that somebody else brought that. Cam brought that up earlier.
I anticipate just praying together, praying for our kids as they're older. And I think that's a God goal, because we're still at the age where we're trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up, and how can we get this and how can we get that. And success is like overnight, it seems, for a lot of people. Yeah. So
you're looking forward to that old stage, the wrinkles in scriptures.
Right.
That's what's up.
Nice.
That's what's up, man. Explain how important communication and humility is in a marriage. On our end, Tamir,
it's number
communication and humility on our end, or the wife's ends, or both. Because I would definitely, I'm sure you're probably talking about both. I think communication is the key. That was something I learned in our pre-marriage counseling, me and Tiff. Just learn to talk about things even when it's tough. Yeah. Because when you don't, it leaves so much room for you guys to separate, because there's things that you ain't getting off your chest. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to mention nonverbal communication. It's one of the things we walk couples on that we still ain't got down yet, by the way. But those nonverbals are important too. Right. Because they get passed with, here's something that y'all might deal with when you say it. But there's a lot of things that you got to deal with that aren't said.
True.
Especially with females, man. Like, cause
you know what I'm saying?
We men sometimes, I pray that God continues to help me grow in this area, but learning the nonverbal stuff, because I always tell Tiff, like, I am not a mind reader. You can't expect me to know every nonverbal thing that you're throwing my way. Right. So I'm gonna need you to communicate with me, because I'm a little slow when it comes to this.
The nonverbals aren't so much like what you see. Sometimes is what you do. Sometimes that communicates something. That you don't say, but that you do. Right. So it's not just what you see, but it's what you do also. It's just, it might
No,
seem
people
very
can read that
complex,
stuff, man. No.
but it's important.
Right.
I work in a nursing home, right? And I know this doesn't have to do with marriage directly, but indirectly. I work in a nursing home, and when I'm taking care of the residents and I'm taking care of, I have certain residents that have dementia or out of their mind, but they can tell when I'm angry. Like if they're not doing what I'm asking them to do, they can see the frustration. I have this one lady that I take care of, and she knows me so well. She has dementia and everything like that. You wouldn't expect her to know me this well. But when I'm like, hey, stand up, we're going to go over here, and she's not doing that, or if I tell her like turn this way or don't do that, and she's not listening to me, and it's like early in the morning, I haven't had my coffee, or I'm just not fully sanctified yet. I'm like getting all frustrated at her. Like, I don't even say anything because I've learned to hold my tongue. But the look on my face, my expression, I guess, or just little things like that, she'll look at me and say, "Oh, honey, don't be mad at me. Please don't be mad at me. I'm sorry. What did I do?" And I'm like, "Nah, you're good." But that's when I got to check myself. Like, Wayne, you may not be saying it, but you're definitely displaying it. That's a whole bar within itself. So
Yeah.
All right.
I like that. I agree with both of it. Communication is definitely key. We're in a relationship, and that's primary communication. Even with Christ in our prayer life, it's communication. It's relational, and give grace to our spouses to change. Like I can't lock my wife down to how she was when she was 20. She's going to grow and mature and process and see things from a different perspective. We get, however God feels fit, we get to stay married. We get to be part of each other's transformation. How I see things now and how I respond now and react to things are not really the same. So you're constantly learning who your spouse is. Because I'm like, well, before, when you was 23, it's like, no, she's... It changes.
And all of this plays a role in directly with humility. It takes a humble person to want to communicate whenever you don't want to communicate, right? It really does. Look who's with us tonight, Sharon. We know Sharon from our other podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Sharon pops up in the basement
Sharon,
podcast.
She's our what? 100th caller, you win $500.
Yeah, Sharon. But Sharon's always coming with that truth. She says, even though Jesus wasn't married, we see in the Word how important communication was between him and the disciples. Amen. Everything shows on my face, so I might as well tell the truth. Right. I think a lot of us are so expressive, it just shows. So let me ask y'all this. Let me run through some speed round questions. This is where I ask you guys questions, and you guys answer them as quickly and as precise as you can. Those of you in the comment section, go ahead and keep on asking questions and keep on commenting. You guys can answer some of these questions. Speed round question number 1. You guys can both answer this. What's the most romantic thing you've done for your wife? And I'll just throw in there recently. Maybe it doesn't have to be all time. What's the most romantic thing?
Like rose petals all over the place and all that.
You do that?
What's up?
You do the rose petals and all that?
I did that early on. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But, I felt bad that I'm spilling roses everywhere.
Right.
I've never done the rose petals, but Tiff did them. That's what's crazy. I don't even like rose petals, but I get it.
I think that
she did that.
Right. One thing we did was we walked around town together.
That's cool.
It might not be super romantic, but we did go to Prince G Cafe.
That was just like last weekend, right?
Yeah. And we were holding hands like old school and just walking around town and looking at. We just went everywhere. We went to shops we didn't know were there, and we just went everywhere in town just together and just laughing and just investigating and.
Oh, bendito.
That was dope.
That's what's up.
Hey, you asked, man.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Time is time. I learned that the hard way. Time is very important. My wife, she values time together over expensive stuff. So I probably have to go. You said recently.
Yeah, let's go with
maybe her
recent.
birthday.
Okay.
We just took her to go
this
shopping.
year birthday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Took her to go shopping.
Yeah, you did. You took her Max spending.
So go ahead. Go.
Took her to Nordstrom and all that.
So here's the irony of that. she likes to shop. She don't like to get nothing. She just likes to take
She's
inventory.
she likes the window shop.
Yes, from inside the store. She'll go to a one-item store and spend 3 hours looking at one item. So the fact that I said, no, you go here, and I'm not going to bother you or give you nonverbal communication. I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
It meant the world to her just to have that free time. And so, yeah, that's what I would say.
Cam said a rose petal bubble bath with quietness. I like the quietness part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang, yo, it's funny because I'm over here asking you guys these questions. I can't even think of the last thing I did romantic. I don't know. Tiff's on the live right now. Have I done anything for you romantically lately? I don't know. Some of the times I'll be forgetting the stuff that I do, and I think it's normal stuff, and she loves it.
Yeah, see, well.
Yeah, so
I'm
Tiff's on
sure,
here. You can tell the truth, babe.
I'm pretty sure Los can attest to the same. It's some of the normal things that that we do or got better at doing.
And some of the things
that mean a lot.
Become so normal to me that were not normal in the beginning.
Yep.
That I've just adjusted. I've tried to make my life more pleasing to her, almost like the things that I do, things that I don't do anymore.
Yep.
She would say the most romantic thing that I've done in a while is go downstairs and eat my snacks so she doesn't have to hear me chew.
There was I shared this with when we did Life Talk. We shared.
She hates to hear me chew, so like me walking out of the room, eating my snacks downstairs.
That's love. That's laying your life down.
That's mad romantic.
We did a Life Talk segment. We talked about things like there was an article I read of a couple. I think it was on like one of the Christian radio stations, but his wife had passed away, and they asked him like, what were some of the things that you remember the most? And he said, believe it or not, it's the little things, like when she would roll over in the middle of the night and let some air out. Like, I missed that. I miss the little things. And so I have a knack for leaving. If I drink, you can tell where I drink coffee because I'll leave the cup. I always forget and walk away, and my wife would be like, there's your cup, there's your cup. And I said, you're going to miss that.
Yo,
she said, I know I will.
That's Tiff.
I'm going to miss you placing your cup down. So I said that to say this.
Mm-hmm.
I love making wife for my coffee. I love making coffee for my wife. Now,
yo, I didn't know you love coffee that much.
We got to break that down.
Yo, you love making wife for your coffee. Yo,
like making wife for you,
man.
Making coffee for my wife.
You're messing me up now.
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out.
She's gonna hear that and she won't let that go for years.
Yo,
just gave her.
I'm gonna have to send her this clip because you know she's gonna
make it into a song.
Yo, his wife makes clips all the time of all the funny stuff and dumb stuff we say.
Oh, hold on.
That's
Tiff said, bought me my fave Chinese food and rested your leg on me while we watched Netflix.
See, that's the little things that.
Yeah. For the Christian viewers out there, we watch Pure Flicks.
Okay.
Nah, I'm messing with Netflix. nah, that's true, yo.
Did you rest your leg?
That's what I'm saying right there.
Did you rest your leg on purpose though?
I did.
That's the
because I know I hate resting my body, like my leg on her and stuff like that. I like. Because then I feel the body heat and then I get all hot.
I know how you watch movies too.
Yeah.
You're very animated. If there's a scene that you like, you'll get.
If I rest my leg on her, that means I can't really interact with the movie.
It's those. I'm telling you, it's them little things, them little nuances.
Yeah.
So I like to make coffee for my wife, and I got better at the timing of it.
Yeah. And
she appreciates that. So someone's like, "How'd you know I wanted a cup of coffee?" I just. Like Los was saying, the nonverbal communication.
Right.
It's just the timing.
Right.
But it's just, someone could say it's just coffee. Nah, it's the timing. It's the thought behind it.
Right.
It's the right amount of cream and sugar.
I wish I knew how to scrapbook or something. She loves scrapbooking. So I don't know,
I did
maybe.
That for Tiff before. Not scrapbook, but I made a photo book. And she loves it.
You don't have to compromise your faith.
Yeah.
Please your
Thank
wife.
you. Thank you, man. I needed that because I'm thinking she likes creative stuff and like that, but I'm like, nah. I like burning paper, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
John said, my wife says the simple things I do for her are romantic, such as eating on the couch in a movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
some little things, man.
That stuff matters.
Yep. My wife falls asleep when we watch a movie.
I'm guilty of that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, Tiff does it all the time. I'm not mad.
No, but you know what we do too?
I'm not mad at her.
If we try to do Netflix, we spend like 20 minutes trying to find something to watch.
You end up watching the screen. That's what you watch.
And I said, there should be a movie of somebody trying to find a movie on Netflix.
Hey.
Yo,
You
don't
heard
give them
and
the
that's
ideas.
right. You
Don't
heard it
give them
here.
the ideas.
heard
We're
it here
doing that
first.
same thing.
Yo,
you know
we
what I'm
could
saying?
make a movie like that.
You heard it here first.
I'm pretty sure Kirk Cameron's gonna do it and make it into a Christian message somehow.
Yeah, might as well. Yeah.
Yo,
Coffee? Did you have coffee?
I did a little bit. I took a swig.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let me ask you guys this: when did you start viewing your wife as your sister in Christ, and how did that affect your view of her?
Wow.
When you started viewing her as your
I think the
sister in
second
Christ.
time we dated,
Okay.
because the first time we dated, we messed up. You know, we didn't do things right. You know, we fell into sin. So I saw her. I
second
loved her. The first time I loved her, but it was mixed in with a lot of selfishness, and you know, and we fell. The second time, I needed to see her as my sister,
Right.
in order to be godly in our relationship. Take that seriously, you know.
Right.
So we did things right the second time. So, and then in our marriage, it continued from there, because that's kind of like the foundation we set.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Lord was redemptive in that. The second time, that's when the foundation was set.
Okay.
You know.
That's good.
How about you, G?
Yeah.
Out of 14 years of marriage, if I could give a good timeline, it would be yesterday. No, I'm kidding. Maybe, probably midway. We always knew
Midway
that
through
was
last week.
right. We always knew it was a truth. It was a truth. That's my sister in Christ. But putting that truth in the forefront, probably midway in our marriage, 6-7 years in.
When you started treating her like your sister in Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And praying along those terms, and like, God, you know her more than I do. You love her more than I do.
So I'm guessing.
You know, clue me in on how to treat her and how to, you know, that was midway through, if I have to be honest.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So that affected your view of her and made you want to change your behavior towards her.
Yeah. Her value for me personally increased. Because you go from being boyfriend, girlfriend, and married. Sometimes the lines are blurred.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is this is more than that. So yeah.
Let me ask you guys this: how does having a close relationship with the Holy Spirit help you with loving your wife correctly?
Makes it easier.
Yeah. I think here's I've been a believer since 1990. You know, so that's a long time.
Is Christianity out?
It was dusty back then, but it worked.
Oh, yo,
Yeah, that's terrible. But the Holy Spirit, what I've noticed throughout the years is that he continually exposes like our sin, convicts us of it, and there's always sins to convict.
Okay.
So I'm forgetting your question. Or how has I think that's the Holy Spirit's role has always been the same. He's constantly like unraveling my issue.
Right.
And that's even what we tell couples when they get married is that marriage enhances both the good and the bad.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and I try not to discourage them. What I try to tell them is that even though that's the case, like that God's going to expose even greater depths of your sin, he also reveals greater depths of his mercy and his grace.
That's good.
And so y'all need to work together to remember that together, because he's going to unpack some serious, like, in-depth issues in your marriage. So people think that marriage is going to fix your lust issue. It's going to fix
Wow.
nah.
That was one of my notes.
Yo, it's going to unpack your filth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In greater depths. And
Right.
so, yeah, I think his role has been that he shows you your greater evil, and but he also shows you the depth of his mercy, and that's a continual thing. He continues to show us our sin, but he also continues salvation and mercy and grace and all the good that God has for us in the midst of us repenting of the things he shows us.
Right. That's real good.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I would say that the last question where I was asking about, viewing your wife as your sister in Christ, and then my relationship with the Holy Spirit has helped me with loving my wife correctly, because of the fact that, like, I know I should know better than to mess with God's daughter. Like that part really convicts me. Yeah. When I'll be like, when I treat her wrong, she's not just my wife, she's God's daughter.
Right.
She's not just my wife, she's royalty.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she's not just my wife, she's somebody that Christ died for and really values. Yeah. And I'm like, I need to check myself. Right. I really need to check myself before I wreck myself. And and for real, because when I start thinking in those terms right there, she's a child of the Most High. Yeah. Like, I know we laugh at those statements, right? I'm a child of the Most High, but it's true. Our wives are children of the Most High, daughters of God. Like, we always joke as men in America, especially, like, we have, these memes with dads holding guns up next to their daughter, like, don't try me. Like, we're supposed to put fear in some of these young boys that don't care a daggone thing about us. We don't put fear in half of these young guys out here, for real, with the gun or not. But try that stuff with God. God got his hand around your wife.
Oh, yeah.
You gonna walk up on God like that? You gonna walk up and treat his daughter like that? Be careful. Yeah. Be careful, man. And so my relationship with the Holy Spirit has helped me to remember that. Yeah. And I'll be feeling real convicted, man. I ain't gonna lie.
It was in the epistle of Peter, charging husbands to the extent that our prayer life could be affected by how we treat or mistreat our wives. And I learned that reality. Like, God wasn't impressed that I have a healthier reading habit, or I'm praying longer, or more active in serving. What about your wife? I see y'all as one flesh. So it's a big deal to God. She's a big deal to God. And the Holy Spirit helps us keep that truth in perspective.
Cam said, after my drug addiction, I truly saw Christ in my wife, as in her patient in love for me. So much grace. Hope I answered this correctly. I truly saw my ruthlessness and filthiness. I truly saw she is in the image of God, and I need to love this woman. Amen. Yeah, and that's all after 6 years in marriage. Yep. So we got people co-signing. Sharon said, that's good. God's daughter, you're God's son. Right. Like, those family issues. Like, imagine that growing up. Remember that growing up? Like, I don't know if y'all was in a household like that, but there was only so much wrong I could do to my brother or like a family member, my cousin or whatever, before the parent stepped in and you're gonna get beat. Like, there's only so much you can do.
Especially the one they like the most.
Yo, don't let it be that one. We had one girl cousin growing up, and we knew not to mess with that girl cousin. Like, don't make her mad, because if she goes and tells on you, you're getting your butt beat. And that's how we got to look at this one right here. Like, there's only so much wrong we're going to do to another family member before God going to step in and say, hold up. Right. Now you're mistreating my child. Yeah. Right. And then you being his child, he's going to discipline you.
Yeah.
I heard it on the radio. This was hours before we went to Bible study. Someone was saying how any husband would step up to the plate if someone was chewing their wife out. That's disrespectful. But then go home and chew their wife out. Like, you can't have a double standard like that.
Well, because then we always go, only I can talk to my wife like, only I can cuss my wife out like that.
But the disrespect comes from knowing that she doesn't belong to you, and she has more value, and she's more fragile, handled with care. But we have to have that same heart as well. She belongs to God. She was his before I met her. So the wise thing to do is, Lord, fill me in on how to love her, like, and how to help, walk with her and what she has to juggle and deal with. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I got to, I'm a pretty transparent dude, that the ongoing issues me and my wife experience, even to this day, we don't have a perfect marriage. But again, what we find is we always get humbled, We always get humbled back to, and we repent, and we go before God, and we try again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and that's marriage. Marriage is.
That's the tough part, because how many times have you guys done that?
I don't even know. Like,
Does
so
it ever
many
get to the
times.
point where you're like, you get tired of doing it? Like, here we go again. You know what I mean?
Can, but
Right.
again, that's why Christ is beautiful, because you know he humbles you.
Yeah.
You know, and what I was gonna say was like, because somebody can easily see this and wonder or say to themselves, nothing's gonna change in my marriage. You know, it's always gonna be the same. It's always, you know, we always have issues. Well, we're always gonna have issues. You know what I'm saying?
For
We
sure.
still got issues,
For sure.
but the gospel always humbles us. We find ourselves in our brokenness. We repent. We try again.
That's right.
You know, and we keep fighting. We're gonna mess up again. We try again. We go before God. We get humbled, and we try again. So that's okay, man. I don't think you're ever gonna find a perfect marriage.
No.
Yes, some couples, you know, they don't fight like we do. You know, they don't look like we do.
Right.
That's okay.
Right.
You know, our dysfunctions are a part of our lives sometimes, you know, and Lynette's mother was a very strong woman. You know, she carried her own. She very seldom had a man at the house that held it down. I definitely didn't have a father in my life. You know, he died early on. That's still affecting us today.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We've gotten better at it, but we're still repenting, still being humbled,
Absolutely.
still trying.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's important, man. Just if that's you and you feel like nothing's going to change or whatever,
Right.
keep fighting, keep being humbled, and try again.
Yeah, that's good.
That's dope.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
An example I like to use is with my kids when they don't want to go somewhere. Like they like to go to the park, to the big park. They want to be there, but they don't want to walk.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want the process it takes to get there. And sometimes we have a view of marriage that if this don't line up like this in a short period of time, then I'm out. And this is what I do.
Right.
I tell if we're walking, if it's a 10, 15 minute walk, we'll stop and say, look how far we came.
Right.
Look how far we walked.
Right.
And my youngest will look back. He'll remind me, Dad, look how far we walked. Look how far we came. That's what you got to do sometimes. When I feel like nothing's changing, look how far you got. I guarantee you that it might feel the same, but you didn't think you'd be here.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 years later, look how far
Yeah.
you got. Because we want what we have an idea what it should be, expectations,
Yeah.
and then it has to be a bigger vision.
Yeah, man.
And
It's good.
we represent Christ and His relationship. That's a bigger goal, and we depend on Him to fulfill that. We have help. So
Man, that's good.
Yeah. So,
stuff.
I think that's a good place to end right there. There was more stuff that we didn't even get into today, but that's pretty much how some of our best podcasts end up.
I think
ending.
this is one of our best ones because I think, you know, I'm feeling that a lot of the stuff we said had a lot of weight to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I think it connected to a lot of people. So
yeah, and
definitely
we're living it
encouragement.
out. We're living
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
We're in it,
Yeah.
Man, it was good to have you, bro.
man.
We gotta do this
It's
again.
been a long time coming. It feels like home. Yeah,
That's what's
Home
up.
in the
Thank
basement, man.
Yeah,
appreciate you
Cam-
guys having me on.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Los, you're part of my history, man. You
Yeah?
know, you're part of the city's history, everything. So
That's what's up.
it's cool to come full circle like this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's good to have you, man.
Thank you.
Straight up.
Cam
Yeah.
says salvation is a free gift, but it costs everything. Marriage and parenting, right? Sharon said the family statement is a beautiful thing when they're following Christ, but man, it's not easy when they don't know the Lord, because sinners will say and do what sinners gonna do.
That's another
Woosa!
podcast episode.
Woosa! That's what she
Sin is
said.
gonna sin, sister.
Yeah,
Sharon.
sin is gonna sin. The world's gonna whirl. Cam said, I used to say that and feel that all the time, Los. Okay, yep. Amen. Great words, big bro. That dude just spoke that truth. Talking about when Los was going in. I think it was whenever you were saying my marriage is not gonna change.
Yeah.
Tiff said, good stuff, gentlemen. Ray says, I was truly blessed by watching tonight. Seriously, thanks, fellas.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, for real. Oh, your mom is on here. She said, awesome.
What?
Miss Carolyn.
All right.
What's up?
Mama Robbins.
Mama, we made it. I'm on the basement. I told you.
Oh man, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Like and share one more time if you haven't done it. Glad you guys tuned in to episode 14 of The Basement, where theology meets the thoughts of life.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode was called Love by Example. Yeah. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and check out episode 11 called Submit by Example, which was the ladies' night. So tonight was guys' night. The other night was a couple Wednesdays ago was ladies' night. And I hope to keep these topics going.
Yeah.
Where we have ladies and guys talking on similar topics, or at least corresponding topics.
Now we got to do we didn't do wives and husbands or.
Yeah, we didn't do that one yet.
Integrated.
Yeah, we didn't do that yet.
I think us three should be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that'd be cool.
We'll figure it out. I don't know how we're going to do that.
Right. We can pass the mic. Like old school, just pass the mic. We can figure that out, man.
Yeah, we'll do something.
He said I was talking about the dude with the hat. He was speaking truth about looking back and seeing how far we gotten. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Larry said stuff to chew on. This is good. Thanks, y'all, for real. We appreciate y'all. Every time, for real. We wouldn't be doing this. At least we wouldn't be doing this with as much effort if it wouldn't been for you guys in that comment section.
Yeah.
You guys are the real MVPs here.
Yeah.
So shout out to y'all. Shout out to supporters. Shout out to all the people that come through and give us their commentary on the things that we're saying. So
make sure you guys check out our group page.
Yeah.
Facebook.com/groups.
I always forget to say that.
/The Basement.
Check out The Basement, man.
Yeah. And there's other things we're working on. Pray that we find a good software or something where we can get phone calls in. We're working on that right now. And we're also working on our Patreon account so that you can support if the Lord provides.
And Lord willing, by next week, I'll figure out the audio part and those episodes for you guys that have been looking for new podcast episodes. It will be up there. We only have the first 4 episodes on there, but Lord willing, I'm going to mess with that program and take the audios off of here and put them up there. Yeah. So you guys can listen to this in your car as you're at the gym and all of that.
Dope.
Yeah.
Cool.
So this is where we end. Thank you guys for really just chopping it up with me, man. Tonight it was good. Hearing you guys' responses. And as always, it's always a good time sitting here with you guys. I can learn so much from y'all.
Yeah, same.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Cool. Well, grace and peace, everybody.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in to the episode 14 of The Basement, Love by Example. Yeah, I'm done. All right.
Theology, thoughts, in life.
Yeah, theology, thoughts, in life. Yep.
All right.
Deuces. I'm out. God bless.